Hello, Bedfont, and to everyone else out there who's listening. It's a real pleasure to be here. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Good. You good? Very good. Now, the first thing I'd like to ask you to do is to get out your mobile phones. So could everybody get out their mobile phones or devices? OK. Now, what I'd like you to do is, could you gather into groups of at least 3 if you can? So sort of, say hello to the person next to you or the 2 people around you. You're going to gather in. And for those of you listening remotely, buddy up with some people that you're next to and get your mobile phones out. OK. It's selfie time, ladies and gentlemen. OK, so what I'd like you to do is, hold on. What I'd like you to do is, in your 3s, you all, on your own cameras, need to get a shot of the 3 of you. So all of you will have a photo of your group. Off you go. All get selfies. Now, you should all hopefully have a photo now on your phone of at least 3 people in a selfie. Was anybody, out of interest, was anybody in a selfie with people that they didn't know? Yes. Oh, quite a few of you. Very good, very good. And good, OK. Now, why get you to do that? Well, here's the thing. You've now got those photos on your phone. In 6 months' time, in a year, all with the same photos on your phone, if you keep those photos and you show somebody 6 months in a year, you'll all be telling very, very different stories about that moment, based on who you are, what you become in the next 6 months, what happens to you, what happens to the people around you. You'll all be telling your unique story about this moment in time. Because, ladies and gentlemen, your story is absolutely unique to you. And I would offer you that it's our opportunity, even our duty, to shine a light on our own stories. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Philippa Waller. I run a company called 4D Human Being. I work very closely with the Conscious Leadership Programme over here, which is very dear to my heart. I'm delighted to see so many of you conscious leaders in the room. I work all over the world running communication skills training, running conferences, seminars, and coaching to help people tell the very best story of themselves that they can. And today I'm going to offer you some really usable, instantly applicable insights and tools to help you tell great stories, both about what you do at Cisco and also about yourself. Let me explain a little bit about that. My background is in a few areas. So I was originally an actor and an improviser, so I had to learn to tell stories off the cuff, no script, on stage in front of audiences. I then became a writer and sold screenplays in Hollywood, in London, wrote for TV, and then I turned to psychotherapy, psychology, and the human story. And for me, all of those pieces, storytelling in terms of objective storytelling for entertainment, and human development and coaching, it's all the same thing. It's all story. It's all story. So today we're going to talk about why tell stories, why tell great stories about what you do and who you are. We're going to look at the pitfalls, the dangers of when we try to tell stories but maybe they don't work, and I'm going to help you overcome those roadblocks. We're going to look at how to tell great stories, and then we're going to bring it into a professional context. How do we put those great stories into our world of work, our day-to-day for our colleagues, our team members and our clients, and make them relevant to what we do? So do take any notes that you want. This is going to be an interactive session. Somebody said to me a few months ago that I turned up at a session and they went, oh, and they'd worked with me before, and they went, oh, it's Philippa, we're going to be doing stuff. I was like, I'm not quite sure that's the story I want out there. So it is going to be interactive, so have some fun. I know I've spoken to some groups out in various parts of the world, and I know that we're running into lunch. So any of those of you who then want to run a lunchtime session and deepen the work, there'll be some tools for you to use to do that. So why tell great stories? Well, The first thing about that is that we are wired for story. Our brains are absolutely wired for story. We understand life in narrative. Our brains work in a because of that way, cause and effect. We're always looking for the link. So when you tell facts to somebody, just information, just facts, only certain areas of their brain lights up. When you tell them story, whole other areas of their brain lights up. The kind of emotional centres, the sensory centres. If you talk about, advertisers know this, of course, if you talk about the smell of coffee, the part of your brain lights up as if it's smelling coffee. So story has an amazing impact on our brains. That's why when you go to the cinema and you watch a great story, you might react to a moment, a thriller or a horror, or cry at a moment of tenderness, because your brain believes that you are experiencing that. So that is why to tell story. I had a great example of this just now. Sarah, who's in here, who is a conscious leader, came up to me and said, you're just there. She came up to me and said, oh, hello, you probably don't remember me. I was on the Conscious Leader programme a while ago. I said, I remember you perfectly. Your name's Sarah. And the reason I remember you, Sarah, is because you told me a story about your family and your situation that touched me and my life and changed the way I thought about certain aspects of my life. So I knew exactly who Sarah was because of the story that she told me. And that's the power of story, because the emotion of story is like glue in your brain onto which the facts will stick. So that's why to tell story. And the other reason to tell story is because it's the only way we know who we are. The only reason we know who we are is because of the stories we've been told as we go along. Who here has got sort of family myths? Who here has got stories they've been told about who they are in the family, the myths that have been told about you? You know, there'll be photos from when you're 2 and you'll think, yes, I remember that. But actually you don't remember it. It's just because you've been told the story of what happened that day. Anybody got any of those? Yeah? Yeah. And then your role is gradually crafted by your parents and your siblings. That's because that's who you remember that day. And it's very difficult to shake off those stories. Years later, you're a professional, capable, incredibly organised woman or man, and yet still your parents, drama queen. A bit disorganised. Those stories stick. I'm a twin, and I apparently, before I'm even out of the womb, I'm kicking my sister to try to get out first. So my story started before I was even born. I'm the one who's bashing someone out of the way to get out first. I still haven't shaken off that story years later. But that is why it's important that we take charge of our story, because if we don't take charge of our story, somebody else will do it for us. And somebody said to me a number of years ago, are you happening to the world, or is the world happening to you? And that changed my life. So I'm interested today to give you tools to really start happening to the world, even more. And the other reason to tell story, of course, is the ripple effect. That the stories you tell, a little bit like Sarah told me a year or 2 ago, have an impact. And they'll go out and they'll be repeated and repeated until they become the wider myths. So we have to be good at telling stories. We also have to be very good at challenging the stories that we're told, challenging the assumptions that we've been told. Exactly as Kate was talking about. Girls don't do maths. Girls don't code. We need to challenge these stories. So, what are the pitfalls of storytelling? Let's look at these. So what is it that gets in the way of us telling great stories? Well, the first thing is what I call back-footing. Being on the back foot, quite literally on the back foot. Okay. I'm going to ask you all to stand up. Very good. Wherever you are in the world, do stand up. Could you turn to the person next to you with sheer delight and joy? Very good. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, hold on. Very good. Can you name yourselves A and B? Adorable and beautiful. Very good. Okay. A, you're going to ask B a question that they cannot possibly know the answer to. What's the first street I lived on? What was my first pet's name? They can't possibly know the answer to. B, when you are asked this question, you're going to say, I don't know, because you don't. And when you say, I don't know, you're going to take just a little step backwards. Oh, I don't know. Okay, off you go. A, ask your question. Okay, good. Okay. Hold on. These are the, hold on. Okay, these are the longest questions and I don't knows I've ever heard. Okay. Good. Now, this time around, A, you're going to ask the same question to B. Okay? This time around, B, you still don't know the answer. But this time around, you're going to say, I don't know. And you're just going to just lean in just a little bit. Okay? Don't get right up close, because once you're there, very different message. Okay? So just a little lean in. Oh, I don't know. Okay? Off you go. Okay. Can I ask you, what was the difference the second time around? Anybody? Sorry? Looks like they want to know more. Yeah. A's. Was anybody then tempted to actually give them the answer? Yeah. Good. And I'm going to gather by that noise that you are finding out fascinating information like first pet names. Very good. Okay. So this is what we call front foot, back foot. And back-footing is really common. Even though our brain might be thinking, right, I've got to be confident and step forward and tell my story, our bodies are so coded to move away when we're uncertain. You can start watching it in meetings and in presentations. Yeah, no, I'd love to come for dinner. Yeah, that'd be lovely. Start noticing what the body does. And if we can start to take control of ourselves physically, to quite literally step in, front foot, there's something very exciting happens to our brain. To follow on from what Elle was talking about, here's a little-known secret, ladies and gentlemen. You've got more connections going from your heart and body to your brain than you have from your brain down to your body. Okay? So all the time that you're trying to feel confident, I've got to step forward and tell my story here. The body is screaming up to the brain, no, I don't think we're in play here. No, I don't think we're playing. Okay? But when you step forward, even if the brain's going, not sure what I'm doing, the body's going, we're in play, let's go. Because you've got more roots going up from your body and heart to your brain. So this is where you want to start stepping in. That's your first pitfall. Back-footing versus front-footing. The second one is branching. This is a technique around storytelling, which we're going to be looking at to have clarity and really lovely structure around storytelling, because structure of storytelling is the thing that really moves people. That's the thing that really kind of touches us, is when it's beautifully crafted. And I'm going to give you an amazing structure later on, bringing together all the work that I've done over the years. And we want to avoid branching. Branching is the thing we want to avoid. Branching is the thing that men and women do. Women, you might recognise it a little bit more. Gentlemen, you might recognise it too, for a different reason. So branching, we women love to branch. We love to go out for a cup of coffee. And we're very comfortable with this way of telling stories. So it'll start with, I saw Jean the other day in the supermarket. Do you remember Jean? Actually, she used to live in southwest London. Do you know southwest London? Funny, there's that lovely restaurant in southwest London. Have you ever been there? It's a French restaurant. I had the oysters last night. They're absolutely extraordinary. I don't usually eat oysters. Do you eat seafood? And before we know it, we're off down these tunnels. Now, not everybody does this, of course. But actually, we're often very comfortable with that. Our brains will move with that. And this isn't a gender thing, this is a brain thing. Because some brains, the male brain, and some women have male brains, some females have male brains, some men have female brains, so it's not a gender thing. But some brains find that very difficult to cope with. They're like, we started off with Jean in the supermarket, and I'm wondering if I should be eating shellfish. I don't know where are we? So actually what I call sort of trunking, going down, being really focused and going down the centre of your story is a really useful technique to tell great stories. All of those thoughts that come into our head that are fascinating. We should be careful about branching. Choose carefully when branching is good. And the third pitfall is bitching. So, and this is men and women, and I don't mean bitching to each other, I mean the internal bitching. So the voice in your head. Who has a voice in their head? I do mean your own voice, not somebody else's voice. For those of you who didn't put your hand up, the voice that just said, what's she talking about? I haven't got a voice in my head. That's the voice in your head. That's the voice in your head. So, who has a voice that regularly tells them how incredible and amazing they are? Nobody's put their hand up. Who has a voice that reminds them of what might go wrong and how they might not be as good as they think? Oh, there they are. Yes, there are the hands. Yeah, absolutely. So we're overwired for negativity. Now, while that was useful to us out on the savannah when we might be sort of mauled by a buffalo, or in Sarah Palin's technology, a dinosaur, it's not as useful to us anymore. We need to check in on that voice that swings from being a kind of useful friend to just bitching, really. It's like going shopping and you've got that great friend who looks at what you've put on and said, I'm going to be honest with you, I think you could probably do a little bit better in terms of shape for yourself. Let's look at some other styles. Great friend. Want to take her shopping. And then you've just got the friend who goes, that looks absolutely disgusting. And you're like, we've tipped here. We've definitely tipped. We don't need that voice. So we need to be very careful about how strong that voice gets. So I want to ask you now, we're going to look at the negative voice. So I'd like you to turn to, if you can, turn the other way to another person that you haven't worked with or behind. Turn to somebody new. Shake their hand and say, how exciting, we're going to be working together. OK, good. Now, you've got somebody to work with. Good. Now, one of you is going to go first. And you turn to the person next to you, and can you ask them to give you a very quick 30-second update, like the weekly update, the sort of newspaper report on their week this week, OK? So give me the update on you this week, OK? And then you're going to give them the update. Tell them what's been going on. Off you go. Good. Now, out of interest, who told the busy story? Put your hands up, who told the busy story? Yeah, good. Lots of busy story. Who told the difficult moment stories? Who told the challenges stories? Anybody? Few of those? Yeah, a few of those. Who told the sequence of events, what I did organising story? Who told the diary story? Yeah, so lots of those. Lots of those. Who told the amazing me story? Yes! We have one. Do we really? Do we have one? We have one, ladies and gentlemen, in the whole room. One. Yay! Round of applause. Yay! Yes. I love it. Fantastic, fantastic. Good. And I hope this is resonating for all of you tuning in and watching from remotely. Very good. So we've got one amazing me story. Good. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's a really neutral question. Oh, give me the update. And we tend to go, and I'm as guilty of it. I did it yesterday. I walked into a space and consciously said, I'm not going to tell the busy story. And there it fell, out of my mouth. Because it's so embedded, it's so coded, isn't it? So I really want to challenge those stories that we just tell, those opportunities that we have to tell a different story. So this time around, same person is going to ask the question. And I'd like you to ask your partner, can you tell me 3 things that you were really pleased about what you did this week? 3 things that you were really pleased with yourself about, OK? And you're going to answer those questions, OK? So same person, tell me 3 things you were really pleased you did this week. Off you go. Okay, great. Great. I'm so glad that was difficult to stop as well. So I celebrate how much you wanted to carry on doing that. Very good. Now we're going to switch around. So those of you answering that time, you're now going to ask your partner this question. Or ask them to tell you 3 things that they're really excited about that's coming up for them soon. 3 things they're really excited about that's coming up for them soon. Someone's actually jiggling on their chair already. OK, great. Very good. That's your body telling your brain, yes, at last, a chance to tell a great story. So 3 things you're excited about. Off you go. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? Feeling good, yeah? Yeah. So, simply by tuning in to those aspects of our story, we will completely change our state. We'll literally release different neurochemistry into our system, and we'll change how the other person feels. Now, what's stopping us telling the other person the most exciting things or the things we're pleased about when we're just asked, what's been going on for you? What's in the way of us choosing to tell that story? So story isn't just beautifully crafted, well thought out stories. Story is every single word that comes out of your mouth in every single moment. So part of this is about reframing really what storytelling is. Storytelling isn't an isolated thing that we do when we narrate something. It's every single moment. What we're saying is our story. Very good. So we're going to start to look at more structured storytelling now. So what I'd like you to do is, for yourself, can you think of a message you might have to give to some colleagues or a team, or if you're an external speaker, the wider world, a message that would revolve around something to do with work, that would have a kind of theme in it around courage, around stepping in. So a sort of message that you might give to a team to try something new, or, as Elle was talking about, to innovate, to step into the unknown. So a message you might give a team. Okay? Good? Give me some nods. Everybody kind of got something they could use. Yeah, great. Okay, good. Park that. We're coming back to that in a minute. Good. Now what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to think of a story about yourself that was about a moment of courage in your own life, a moment when you had to step in, be courageous, feel the fear and do it anyway. And you think of a moment. It can be small, or it could be huge and expansive. A story of courage for you. Okay, good. Hope you've all got them in the room here and out there in the wider world. Now, could you turn to somebody you haven't worked with, and could you each share that story in about sort of 40, 45 seconds each? Just give that story to your partner. Share your story of courage. Off you go. Who felt like they heard a really lovely, amazing story? Lots of hands, lots of hands. Who consciously tells story about their own courage sort of regularly? Who's conscious of putting those stories in? So 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5, 6, yeah, so a few. Look how many hands were inspired by the stories that we heard. And look how few hands went up to say, yeah, I tell these stories. We need to bring those closer together. Now, I've just put Rachel on the spot here and said, will you come up and share your story? So thank you for offering. So we're going to work through a structure to help improve stories. But first of all, I'd love to hear your story. So please welcome to the stage, Rachel.
Thank you. Hello. Do I just tell my story?
Yes, do you tell your story of courage?
The story that I just told?
Yeah.
OK, so the story that I just told was a couple of years ago when I was interviewing for the job that I have now. It was one of those things where somebody said, oh, there's a job going in the UK and I think you could do it. And I said, no, I can't possibly do that. Look at all the amazing people who've done it before. There's just no way I had the skills or the experience or the confidence to go and do it. And there was a team of people who decided that they really were going to make me go for it. And they got behind me and they built me up, and a few inspirational stories, and I thought, yes, I can do it. And I interviewed for the job, and I got the job, and I absolutely can do this job, and I can do it really well. So that was the story that I told.
Very good, lovely. Thank you very much. Great. Grab a seat. Thank you very much. Yeah, perfect, Rachel. Yeah, very good, perfect. Okay, lovely. So lovely. So already we've got an idea about what that story is, and overcoming those hurdles. So good. So what I'm interested in is taking you from great storytellers to awesome storytellers. Okay, so I'm going to offer you this structure now. There's a lot of theories out there about storytelling. Lots of kind of models and structures to use. And over the years, I've looked at a lot of them, and I've brought together a number of them to make it much simpler, much cleaner, a really quick way to tell great stories that can kind of give you the TED-style keynote story structure. And I've called it the story loop. So this is how it works. What most people do when they tell a story is they go straight to drama. They go straight to the peak incident. Let's cut to the chase. Okay, so Little Red Riding Hood was eaten by a wolf. And we go straight to the drama. There was this job and I didn't think I could do it. We go straight to our peak incident. But if you think about what that really means to us, it doesn't really mean very much because we're not invested. It's like a headline in a newspaper. It's incredibly easy to open a newspaper and see a headline, a disastrous headline of earthquake, kills 1,000 people. Oh, what's my star sign? Like we can just turn a page of a headline. But as soon as we know something about those people, that's much, much harder. Now we're invested. So what we're interested in, the first piece of the story loop is platform. Who is this person? What do they want? What are their dreams? Why do we care about them? So in that example, I'm somebody who I always wanted. I always wondered if. My day-to-day routine was this, but I wondered if. What's the ordinary, everyday platform? Little Red Riding Hood lived in a house with her mother. She wore a little red cape, and she loved to walk in the forest and pick flowers and sing along to her favourite tune as she walked along. A happy, innocent child, but her mother always warned her, never speak to strangers. OK, now we're invested. But if we just have little girl walks into forest eaten by wolf, turn the page. What's my star sign? OK, so platform. We then want our peak incident. What's the main drama that happens? OK, so there I am in the interview. So suddenly somebody says to me, you can go for this job. I'm like, what? I'm not ready for this at all. I'm not equipped. It is not what I wanted at all. What's our peak incident? I thought, exactly as Elle said earlier, not only am I not going to go for the job, I'm going to leave Cisco. I'm running away. What's our moment of drama? And then what's our resolution? What happened next? So Elle's resolution. Charlie took me into his office. Why don't you just go for it? See what happens. See what you learn. And then our learning. And it turned out that, of course, I was capable. It changed my life. I'm better at change than I thought I was. That's your story loop. Does that make sense? OK, great. Because you're going to rework your stories now. OK, now, if you want to, the cherry on the icing on the cake is to have a theme or catchphrase that you start with, you put in the middle, and you end with. OK? So stepping up. It was back in 2004, and I was looking to expand my business. But I'd never done that before. I was somebody who'd always worked solo. And I had dreams of spreading the 4D human being, consciously create the impact you choose. I had dreams about that. And then suddenly, this opportunity came up. Somebody had a conversation with me in the States around expanding the business over there. Felt like the moment I was stepping up. But could I step up? And as it turned out, they had some amazing information for me. We actually started collaborating, and I now have a team on the ground in the US. And I realised that it's only the vision in our heads that can stop us or can make us fulfil our dreams. And I knew that not only could I step up, but I could help other people step up in the future. Okay, and you create that lovely shape to a story. Okay, does that make sense? I literally just made that up, by the way. Okay, I did, based off of that. That's how useful it is. Okay, now, what I'd like you to do now is with your partner, take a little bit of time for yourself. Rework your story. Get us invested. Don't just give us the facts. Give us the platform. Why should we care? Give us the peak incident. Give us the resolution. Tell us the learning. And if you can, pepper it with that beautiful catchphrase. And that brings together everything that you ever really need to know about story. Okay? So I'm going to give you a little bit of time now. You can either kind of take some notes or use your devices to write things down. Rework your story into the story loop. Off you go. You've got 4 minutes. Okay. Good. Again, obviously, you have lunchtime to carry on with the story loop. How did you get on? Did it work? Yes, amazing, isn't it? I know. I love this piece of technology. Very good. Okay. So if nothing else, give yourself platform. Invest that 30 seconds to tell people why they should care about what you say. Okay? That's your story loop. Hopefully some of you have taken photos of that, so tweet it out and then you can all access that. And the last piece to this is, well, how can we put this into a structure for our kind of day-to-day life, a presentation structure? And I want to give you this very quickly, the ABC of great story structure. It's a really easy way to remember telling stories. So what most people do when they get up to tell a story or a presentation is they stand in front of a slide that says, Philippa Waller, 4D human being, corporate speaker. Like your name, your company name, and what you do. And then they'll say their name, their company name, and what they do. And that's a really standard way to open a presentation. So we would offer you the first thing to do is get people's attention with a different opener. So for me today, it was, get out your phones, we're going to take selfies. Like, how can you get people's attention in a different way? Your audience's job is to fall asleep. Your job is to keep them awake. Okay, that's your first job. Your second job is to engage them. Tell them the benefit of why they should listen to you. Why is this message relevant? That's B. A is attention, B is for benefit. Why should they listen to you? Okay, don't wait till the end and say, oh, well, after this hour's presentation, I suspect you know now why you should why you should have communication skills. Tell them at the beginning, don't tell them at the end. C is your core message, so what are you there to tell them? D is your story, so what we've just done there, that's where you want to slot in your detail, your example, your story. That's what they'll remember. Okay, that's your D. And then E is your expectation. What do you want them to do, think, or feel after they've been listening to you? So I'm going to give you a very quick example today. Change your story, change your experience, change your reality. I'm going to talk to you today about how you can tell amazing stories that could change people's lives. So we're going to look today about why we should tell great stories, how we should tell great stories, what gets in the way of telling great stories, and how we can use them in our professional life day to day. When we tell stories, we change the stories that we tell. We're actually changing our neural pathways. We're actually changing our brain. I want to tell you a story about this. About a year ago, somebody at Cisco came running up to me down a corridor. He'd been in a session with me a little while before, and I talked about how plastic the brain is, how we can change our neural pathways by changing what we believe is possible. He said, I've got to tell you this story. My daughter, Sophie, and we'll call him Rob. My daughter, Sophie, lovely girl, very bright. We're very close. We do lots of sports together. She's great at school, gets great grades, has a really I can do it attitude. And I love that for her, because I remember not feeling that at school. And I want more of that for her. And then Sophie came back from school one day and she showed me her maths report. And she said, I'm the worst at maths in my class, Dad. I'm bottom of my class. And he thought, I can't bear this. I can't bear this for my daughter, that she has this belief. He said, I remembered what you said about the neural pathways. And I thought, I'll give it a shot. And he said to her, he looked at her book and said, actually, you're not the worst at maths. I think you're the best at maths. It's just that the teacher can't see the workings because you haven't shown her the bits in between. So she doesn't know that you're the best. And this very healthily cynical 8-year-old went, really, Dad? And he went, yeah, absolutely. You're the best, she just can't see it yet. And she obviously went away, this little girl, and thought about it. And 3 months later, she came back and she showed her father her maths book. And she was top of her class. And he had helped her change her story, that had changed her experience, that had changed her reality. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really want you to think about how you can change the story you tell to change your life and the lives of people around you. Okay? So that might be how you use the ABCDE of storytelling. Okay. Now, get your story out there. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you. I'm Philippa Waller, 4D human being. Have an amazing rest of the day. Be unstoppable and tell your stories.